A couple of years ago, we represented our review of the R. Crumb Handbook. That was August 28, 2024. But over the years, we've discussed Crumb 3 other times, which we'll be representing in the coming weeks. This week, a 2013 episode in which Kumar and I discussed the collection R. Crumb, The Weirdo Years, 1981 to 93, featuring a wide variety of Crumb's comics work from Weirdo magazine. First, I want to thank our patrons for supporting the Deconstructing Comics family of podcasts. You can pitch in by pledging at least $2 a month at patreon.com/deconcomics. This is Tim.
And this is Kumar.
And this is Deconstructing Comics. Welcome to Deconstructing Comics. This is Tim in Tokyo with Kumar in Melbourne. This week we're talking about R. Crumb, The Weirdo Years, which just came out very recently. One of the newer books that we've reviewed, except it's, of course, much older material, 1981 to 93. And Weirdo was a magazine that, I guess, Crumb and, his wife started it?
So it was a magazine-sized comic. And him and Aline started it in 82 or 83 or whatever, and was kind of a counterpoint to Raw, which was sort of super highbrow art comics. Mm-hmm. And Weirdo was supposed to be sort of oddball, fringe dweller kind of comics. In its 10 or 11 year run, it went through kind of 3 periods, because Crumb himself edited it for a while, several issues, and then Peter Bagge took over for several issues, and then Aline did the last run of issues. I'm not sure how many they did each, but there's a
totally there were 28 issues,
right? But there was kind of a difference in quality between the Crumb edited version and Bagge's version, especially. Crumb tended to choose artists they weren't the best choice. I think he just chose the weirdest stuff that came in the box, or the most offbeat stuff. Bagge had he was a bit more discerning in what he chose. He wasn't just going for the transgressive stuff, I think. Or at least that's the way I felt about it. And I don't really know what distinguished Aline's run as much. But despite the 3 editorships, I think this was pretty much it was one of the high watermark points of Crumb's career. I think there was a great period in the 60s, maybe kind of a bit of a lull in the 70s, and then in the 80s he hit again really hard with Weirdo.
Were you a reader of it all at the time it was coming out?
No. It was well after, I started picking up issues probably around 2002 or so. That's when I started picking up back issues of it. Because you could actually find them at Tower Records in Tokyo. So that's where I started buying them from. And we've never really talked about an anthology on the show that I can think of, because they're a bit hard to talk about.
Yeah, there have been a few anthologies with others. I'm not sure if you and I ever have, except for that other Crumb book a few years ago.
Yeah, but even that, just like a magazine like Weirdo or Raw, where you've got like 20 different artists in there, and it's just like, how do you really, you're going to talk about them strip by strip or whatever. So we've kind of avoided it.
Mm-hmm. I guess. Yeah, it is tough. Mm-hmm.
But it always was like, if you wanted that peak Weirdo stuff, you had to buy like 2 or 3 volumes of complete Crumb comics. Like, it wasn't all in one place. And this is, as far as I know, the first time it's all been
right, and I guess this is just Crumb, but it's everything that he did that was published in Weirdo, right?
Yes.
Including all 28 covers.
Yeah.
Which came as a relief to me, because I wasn't sure I was going to finish reading this in time, and then last Saturday I read more than half the book, but those cover pages are in the last half. Like you start flipping much faster.
That may be true, but I actually pored over those covers. Like I spent a long time staring at them, and he's always got these orgies of neurotic people having literal, like metaphorical orgies and literal orgies having, along the borders. And I like spent a lot of time staring at those and looking at all the different logos he did, because like every issue had a different logo, and some of them I actually probably made the mistake of trying to figure out what they meant. So I stared at them for a long time and was like, no, I don't get it. And but I spent a lot of time, and I thought they're pretty amazing. Yeah, so that didn't really speed me up that much.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that reading so much Crumb in one day is so advisable. It kind of starts to warp your mind. But yeah. Actually, when I started reading this, it was really slow going for me at first, and I was having trouble getting into it, and I was afraid we were going to have to call Tom in to join us for this to explain to me why this is good. So there is kind of a difference too between the early stuff and later on. One thing I noticed is the art, because in the early ones, it's here in chronological order. There's a lot more white space in the early pages, and then later he gets into more shading, and he varies styles somewhat. Some of them have more solid blacks. But it's really interesting once you get into it, and then you flip back to the early stuff, and it seems so much, I don't know, so much more white.
Yeah, I think, I'll say a couple of things. I think the stories are really varied, and the art style is really varied. And I think even towards the end, you've got some that are like really, like there's one story called Footsie, which has lots of really deep inky blacks. But then you've got others that have a more finer pen that he's working with or whatever. And it's just really, it's different. It's not really predictable. And the subject matter is not predictable either. Like,
that's for sure.
They're all really, you never really know what you're going to get with each. Some of them are just nonsense, and some of them are really quite serious, and some are hilarious. And, the subject matter is all over the place. Well,
and that was part of the reason I had trouble getting into it too, because what really threw me was the classic comics with the K, classic K comics, because that first one, let's see, page 48, I wrote in my notes. It's excerpts from Boswell's London Journal, 1762-1763, and reading it through, I was like, I didn't really understand why this was here or what it was. I think at first I mistakenly thought that it was meant to look like it was something from 1762 and it was really just fiction. But no, I think somehow he found this and he's just illustrating it, and it's something, it's apparently nonfiction. And it's about this guy's, I don't know, his sexual pursuits.
His debauched antics in London.
And I read it through, like, what's the point of this? And then later, when I got to another one like this, that was these sexual deviancy things from, like, 100 years ago in Germany. Yeah, here it is, page 127. Excerpts from the 12th German
excerpts from a psychiatrist report.
Yeah. By Dr. R. von Kraft-Ebing, professor of psychology, University of Vienna. And it's just apparently something that he actually found and just decided to illustrate. And it goes on for quite a few pages, too. Yeah, it's like 10 pages.
I think he enjoyed working on that one.
And, yeah, you're like, well, why is this here at first? But, yeah, it's just apparently something that he was interested... Well, sexual deviancy. I'm not surprised that he's interested in it.
Yeah. Well, I think there's truth in that, because I think it's kind of a lot of the sexual deviants here from 1906 are far worse than anything our Crumb is really getting up to. But I think when I was talking to Eddie Campbell a few years back, he said you need an artist needs a subject to draw, and that was why like Rembrandt always did himself, because he couldn't afford to pay a model to sit, so he did all the self portraits. And I think he's just kind of, a lot of these are, especially those ones, are just like he found a subject and he illustrated it. Now, at the same time, he did that Book of Genesis a year or two back.
I thought
as
of
well.
that too. Yeah, like it kind of fits. Just
similar to this, but for hundreds of pages. I couldn't bring myself to read it. I just read enough about it. I was like, I kind of get it. This is a bit more. It's interesting because he says he cut stuff out. Like he cut out the gruesome lust murders and shit-eating cases, as he described. So this isn't even the worst stuff. This is just like the second worst stuff, and it's just like, whoa. And it's just like, but I can kind of see how, I don't want to read too much into this. So like this guy with a shoe fetish, and I can kind of get where Crumb finds it interesting, or is trying to maybe work out his own stuff just by drawing it.
Yeah, because I got the impression from some of the other stuff that he may have a shoe fetish of his own.
Yeah, because I mean, the footsie story, I don't know if it's a shoe fetish, but that story, well, I guess we'll get to it a little bit later on, but I found that one, I don't have a shoe fetish, but I found it super erotic. But it was just kind of like the bodily contact of it. Mm-hmm. And there was a few, I was like, also the story of Philip K. Dick, which is one that I really love. Because I also love Philip K. Dick, was really, again, it was just like he found a subject that he, R. Crumb does neuroses better than anybody, drawing a guy that's really sweaty and losing it. And that was kind of a perfect subject for him. There's a fairy tale in here, a Grimm's fairy tale called Mother Hulda. And he totally cranks up the art for it. Like he draws it really in lush, beautiful, almost realistic detail in a lot of ways. But it's a fairy tale. It's just like, why did he choose this? It's not particularly, I don't know if the subject matter, you wouldn't associate the subject matter with R. Crumb, but the way he draws it, it's like obviously that he was inspired by something in it that he felt, I could draw this in an interesting way. Mm-hmm. But definitely there's something, for sure. I mean, maybe this book would be better to read over a period of 12 years than 1 or 2 days. Maybe it's even better to read it packed in with all those other artists. I'm not really sure, but if you read it in a row, it's a bit head spinning for sure.
Yeah, I was like whiplash here with. I tried to sort of break it down into categories.
Okay.
So he has a sort of series of this character called Mode O'Day, which were actually the parts of this book I liked the most.
Well, I remember when we did the other one, your favorite story in there was the Mode O'Day art dealer story.
Yeah. Was that same story in here? I read one that kind of rang a bell. I felt like I read it before. But I looked through I was flipping through the other book and I couldn't find it, but I did think I'd read it before. Actually, the one of the stories here that I liked the best was the one with Dorfman Dolphin.
Okay.
Where Dorfman has a crush on Mode.
Right. Well, we should also point out a few things, like Mode is a human and she hangs out with Doggo, who's a dog, and
they're just like these
Porpy. Or wasn't he a porpoise or something? Didn't they call him Porpoise?
Well, yeah, they called him Porpy, but he was Dorfman Dolphin, and it's not really clear if he's a dolphin or a porpoise, but whatever.
Okay.
But yeah, they live in this universe where there are some anthropomorphized animals walking around, and nobody really thinks anything of it. Right. There's a pig named Manuel who is a photographer. And a slimy looking guy. But right. Yeah, there are other animals walking around, and yeah, it's a little odd.
I actually found that other than the art one where where it's this kind of parody of satire of the art world. I kind of found the Moto Day ones to be weaker, and to me, the reason was just because they were just very random. Like, just a bunch of stuff happens, and they don't really have conclusions. They just end.
That's true. Although I think I liked the Dorfman Dolphin one because there was kind of a twist at the end that I wasn't expecting.
Right.
That cracked me up. Yeah, this was maybe for me the best of the lot. Although, yeah, that art dealer one I think is good too. But some of them were a little weaker. Yes. Anyway, so there were those. I was
surprised how often I came back to it because there were like 5 or 6 Moto Day stories in there.
That was like the only consistent thing, almost the only consistent thing in the book.
Yeah.
But, okay, so the other categories I came up with, there are some that are confessional / journal / reminiscences, or kind of his own thoughts about things. Like the one where he's talking about what images certain songs bring to mind.
Right.
And then
I would put that in the rant category.
Okay. Well, yeah, maybe that's the next category then. His views of society / politics,
yes,
which are sometimes pretty inflammatory, not PC sometimes, to say the least.
Yeah. But those come in slightly, I shouldn't say different categories, but his approaches are really different in some of those, because the inflammatory ones, which we'll get to, are kind of done in a Mad Magazine style. And there's one where he's crowded by all these people, and he's trying to get through this huge crowd, and it's just like all these naked bodies, and there's no white space in any of the panels, and it was a really amazing, neurotic one that I loved. Let's see if I can find it.
It's 235. It's called People, You Gotta Love Them.
Yeah. It's just masses of bodies and flesh. I mean, you don't even know where they are. It's like he's trying to escape to the...
Yeah, and everybody's talking about, and just random comments, and you don't even quite get what's going on until the last page.
It's funny because those random comments are like things that you hear. You know what I mean? Like I thought it was really a very accurate depiction of reality. Through being so unreal. Just the way people were speaking was just like, I don't know, it was amazing. So yeah, even if he's got one, if the subject is the same, the approach is completely different.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
And then the comics versions of stuff that he found, like the classic comics, the Philip K. Dick, the Grimm Fairy Tale. And then I just had a sort of catch-all category, combinations of those or other random stuff.
Well, random stuff kind of deserves its own category, because those are my favorite ones. Are the random gag. Like there's this one. The very first one is this schmo sitting around watching TV, and then he turns to some random foreign language channels, obviously Chinese or Japanese or something, it turns out. But he gets sucked into the TV, and this sexy dancer that he's turned on by ends up swinging him around like crazy, and then he gets thrown back out of the TV, and then he decides to go to bed. I thought that was just awesome. And hilarious. I just could not stop cracking up. And the other ones that cracked me up were like, there's one with Goldilocks, but it's like set in the present, and Goldilocks is like this junkie, and just goes crazy in the Three Bears house and smashes everything, and like puts the bowl of porridge over her head and like feels it. And then they come in, the bears come home, and she gets dragged off by the cops. I just thought it was great. And there was another one like that. Oh yeah, the one with the aliens. There's one called it's called like Comics from Another Planet Department, and it's not in English. It's all weird symbols and just strange.
177.
Yeah. So it's just like there's alien male and female, and they're really ugly, and the female's crying, and then some spaceman shows up and hits her with a ray, and this big thing grows out of her mouth, and he puts it in his mouth, and their faces get squashed together, and then they turn into bubbles, and then the spaceman gets some reading, and some men on some spaceship somewhere are talking about the reading, I guess, and the woman cries, and then the woman pulls the big thing out of the big worm sluggy thing out of the male's mouth, and she puts it on her tit, and that's the end. And I'm like, this is the best. That one cracked me up too. I just thought it was so bizarre, funny. Even the looks on her, like the look on her face on page 178, where her like each eye is looking in a different direction as this thing is emerging from. I mean, it's just amazing.
Well, yeah, I can't say I would have thought of doing this story, but
yeah, there's also another oddball one in here. There's a parody of Omaha the Cat Dancer, which this one's the most out of place. I think a lot of people are going to pay for this book and not know what the hell is going on. And I found it funny because it's a pretty good parody of Omaha the Cat Dancer, in that there are a lot of characters you don't know who the hell is who and why anybody's doing anything, and then they end up having sex, and you're like, what's going on?
Well, and every single page begins with "meanwhile."
Yeah. Yeah. Meanwhile, and I found it was funny to me because it seems to be didn't he said something like, oh yeah, cruel satire on a really nice comic is the first thing it says on there. So I think he kind of liked Omaha, but thought he would poke fun at the plotting of it. But it kind of reminded me of the Moto Day strips. Really, the way just one thing happens and then another thing happens and another thing happens.
Yeah, it doesn't have any real direction. It's just kind of a lot of sort of random things happening. And then at the end it says to be discontinued immediately.
Immediately. Yeah, it was funny. But I don't think I think it's going to be like, what? For a lot of readers.
Right, yeah. Somebody who wasn't around then or didn't know about it, wouldn't get what he was parodying. It's called, we should say it's called The Adventures of Wichita the Rat Dancer.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about some of the Crumb's views on society/politics stuff.
But, yeah.
I have a question. I'm really not sure what the answer is.
Sure.
Do you think Crumb is racist?
No. But I think... No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I know what you're... Because you think about the last story, right?
Well, among others. Okay. The question came up earlier than that, but...
Okay.
Yeah, that last story it does have a scent of satire to it, so I wasn't so sure about that one, but other places.
No, because the last story we have to say it's called When the Niggers Take Over America / When the Jews Take Over America. It's in 2 parts, but that one's really obviously a parody of insecure white people. Mm-hmm. Believe that these things are going to happen to them. It's a parody of what those people think is going to happen to them.
Yeah.
I think if that is not the impression if for any reason at any point you think he's being serious about it, maybe we have to consider that maybe Crumb is not the best satirist. Maybe that's not necessarily his greatest strength or the best approach. I don't. To me that's always funny because at first you're like, whoa, this is full on for a page or two, and then I was like, I'm starting to get it because it's so over the top. It's like there's no way to take it.
Right. I wasn't thinking of that quite as much as other things like in the story called Uncle Bob's Midlife Crisis, which is just about it's sort of a journal comic. About his life going on at that time. And there's a panel at the bottom of page 83 where he's walking through town and he says, "It's a beautiful day here as usual. This town is so utopian. It's truly amazing. No poor people, no crime, no angry-looking Negroes or third world oppressed." You'd think this was heaven if you just got off the boat here. Now, it is qualified with angry-looking, not saying no Negroes, but I just kind of wondered about that.
Well, but I think angry looking is important because, like, for example, you have to at the same time look at the set of blues musicians trading cards that he drew. or blues artist portraits. I
Hmm.
mean, R. Crumb loves black musicians from the 30s or 40s, and I think that's probably the way he feels about
Hmm.
a lot of things, much like cartoons like Seth, just kind of the battle days. But even that, he himself admits, well, of course, things weren't good in the old days at some stage in this book. I can't remember where. But no, I never really thought he was racist.
Okay,
I thought
maybe
he
just
probably, I think, because whenever he talked to me, it was like sometimes he would have a fear of, walking down a dark alley and
yeah. He mentions that in the story about the '60s when he's saying like, in those days you would make fun of the cops when they went by, and now I feel safe when the cops go by if I'm around because I'm scared of black youths.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, no, I think it's I think it's an urban fear. I don't think it's really racial.
Yeah, I think maybe he's just a little imprudent about how he expresses some things that could be construed in a racist way, but maybe he doesn't mean them that way. Or
Yeah,
am I
I
giving him
think
too much credit?
no, I think he's very straightforward. He
Yeah.
just says,
Uh-huh.
I don't put anything.
By the way,
Yeah.
that '60s story, that was that was at the point at which I said, okay, we don't need to call Tom, because I really got into that '60s story.
Right.
He's just it's called I Remember the '60s. R. Crumb Looks
Yeah.
Back, which is exactly what it sounds like. But it's I think a very clear-eyed description. I mean, I hear that some people, maybe a little younger than I am, complain about baby boomers talking about how great the '60s were, which is not what this is.
Yeah.
He talks about how he was hanging out in Haight-Ashbury, and there were people walking around who were strung out on drugs, and then worse elements came in, bikers and stuff, and it really went to pieces. And it's not really what you expect of a baby boomer talking about the '60s in San Francisco. It feels a lot more real and not idealized. So I found it really fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was a good. Actually, and the midlife crisis one is one. This time I really loved. Well, I should say it shocked me this time. More, I remember reading this the first time when I was 29 or 25 or something, going, haha, our Crumb's an old man. And now I'm 39, and in the story, sir, I was like, holy shit, this is like, I'm the same age as...
Starts to hit home, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, and it was really... and and the art in this story, too, is amazing because, like, on page 83, there's, like, or even starting at the bottom of 82, you've got about 9 panels of him, just his face as he's lying in bed, and everyone's completely different, and he's kind of got visually maintaining interest somehow, and he just kind of rolls over in his bed a little bit or moves his arms. Or it's just a slightly different angle. It's really amazing. And it's packed. These are like, 12-panel pages for like 10 pages, and there's a hilarious sequence where he tries to meditate, and then he starts thinking about records and just crazy stuff, and he has this fantasy about some fairy tale song, and then this woman with giant legs, of course, and she's like some kind of Dutch, I don't know.
Little Dutch girl becomes a big Dutch girl, yeah.
Yeah, and then he wrestles her, and then he has all sorts of straight crazy thoughts again, and yeah. It was a great story.
Yeah, there was also a story about trash.
Yeah.
Which I felt like to some extent he made some good points about how like the packaging industry has an interest in continuing to turn out a bunch of garbage. It felt a little bit too much on the conspiracy side of things, but like they're all in it together and they're burying us in trash. But I mean, I tend to lean the opposite direction there, but there's probably some truth to it.
But I think a lot of those stories are like he's making fun of his own paranoia by taking it a step further than it actually is.
That could be.
At least that's the way I felt about it a lot of the time. What page was that one on?
Starts on 76.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I kind of... Like, there's a panel on the second page, the middle panel, he has a little note in the corner which says, I just love to draw these heinous businessmen. I mean, he's not super serious about it, you know? It's not like he believes they're like that. But he draws these kind of sleazy, porky-looking guys in an office wearing, you know, they're slimy, oily men.
Plenty of ashtrays.
Yeah. I just love to draw these heinous businessmen, ! R. Crumb. Yeah, I don't think it's not quite straight on, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then there are lots of like panel gags, which are not really gags. They're just like, whoa, like what is that? They're almost like sketchbook drawings that he just decided to finish, and they're like doodles that, you know, napkin doodles that he actually drew. He ended up spending 4 hours drawing or whatever, and they're just like amazing, strange things.
One that I just can't figure out what the deal is. On page 142, the naked guy jumping up and down saying, money, 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 money. Okay.
Well, actually, kind of, but there's something, see, that's the kind of thing that kind of makes sense. Like, it's kind of the id, you know, it's like a man's id and it's just the naked desire for money. Like, you know what I mean? There's almost and there's one that's I can't remember what page it was on, but there's one that was like Apocalypse Funnies, and it's just a whole bunch of gags about like after the nuclear holocaust. And I can find it. There was a really funny one where this woman gets her clothes blown off, and this guy's looking at her, and he's like, "Oh shit." You know, like he managed to see her, but he's getting killed at the same time. Like he was lucky enough to see this woman's clothes get blown off, but you know, his face is melting.
I remember that, but I don't remember the page.
Yeah, it was really funny. Yeah, so there's stuff like that. There is an actual sketchbook section as well where he puts lots of notes down the side about how he's feeling about, you know, how he's feeling about fame and things like that. And it's that was really an interesting confessional kind of one as well.
Oh, Nuclear Holocaust Kicks is page 54.
Ah, okay.
54 and 55. Yeah, last cheap thrill.
Last cheap thrill, because he saw the girl get her clothes blown off, and then he says, "Oh shit!" And his clothes are getting blown off, and there's the entire city's destroyed in the background. Awesome. And a guy walking around with a TV with no place to plug it in, and his hair's all falling out, and everything's
after
destroyed.
The bomb and no place to plug in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that stuff was great. Even the ones that didn't make sense were weird, but they were amazingly drawn. And when he was on, he was really on, because I love these nuclear holocaust kicks.
Coming up, Fumetti, Footsie, the religious experience of Philip K. Dick, and more. Back in 2015, my brother Paul,
that's me,
and I started a podcast called To the Batpoles about the Batman TV show starring Adam West.
My brother Tim,
that's me,
and I were crazy about the show watching reruns in the 70s, but hadn't watched it much since then until the show finally came out on home video in 2014.
Holy nostalgia.
Over the next decade, we went from vaguely remembering episodes we were watching for the first time since we were kids, to examining the history of the show, its fandom, how the show was written, its portrayal of women, and more.
We had guests including 2 women who appeared on the show, Donna Lauren,
Joker's assistant in The Joker Goes to School,
and Susan Silo,
Riddler's Mall Mousy, and A Riddle a Day Keeps the Riddler Away. Recently,
we've moved to a Patreon-only show, Bat Bits, available for $2 a month at patreon.com/deconcomics.
Holy crowdfunding! But all 222 episodes of To the Batpoles are still available for free at tothebatpoles.libsyn.com.
Or in any podcast app.
We hope you Bat fans will check them out.
Okay, now it's time to go polish the Batmobile.
Huh? What? Do you think we're the dynamic duo?
Shh, it's a conceit for the ad.
Oh, sorry.
We didn't mention there in the first part of the book there are some fumetti stories.
Oh yeah, that's right.
With
Did you categorize those under random or whatever?
wow, I'm not sure what to categorize these under. Are they fiction? That R. Crumb himself appears in them, and I think his wife is in there, and I don't know who these other women are.
Yeah, random women that fit the R. Crumb mold that he found somewhere and brought in to do these photo shoots. And do these
women with thick legs.
Yeah.
Like the Get in Shape story.
Yes.
Although that one on the left pretty cute.
Yeah.
I usually don't share his taste in women, but I could go for her.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what to make of these. I think a lot of the stuff in here, but those ones are kind of the ones where you feel like he's having the most fun.
Mm-hmm. They must have been a blast to do. Yeah,
because in the comics he's drawing, it's just his neuroses coming out on the page, and even the lines, like there's so many lines, it's like he must have gone crazy drawing these things. But the photo ones just seemed like he was having a good time. And he's like smiling in some of them.
Mm-hmm. Wow, R. Crumb smiling.
Well, he smiles a lot. In fact, there's a strip in here called "I'm Grateful, I'm Grateful," which is about all the things he's grateful for. So, he's never. I mean, it's easy to kind of qualify him and just label him in one direction, but he himself qualifies all those things. And he says, I don't really think this or that, or he's kind of, a lot of the times he's trying to make sense of things through the comics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can really see him kind of working through stuff in public. Well, he says in that one story, I don't know why I feel this urge to be so confessional about things. Were he talking about how he got that girl drunk and had sex with her?
Oh yeah.
He said, I guess it's my Catholic upbringing. I feel like I have to confess everything. That's page 222.
Yeah.
But I've changed now, honest girls. I've learned my lesson.
That's right. Yeah, he probably jeopardized his chances with other women by drawing that strip, but he had to draw it anyway.
Yeah, I'll never get laid again.
Well, that was kind of the thing in. If you ever get a chance to see the documentary, which was amazing, that came up as very much like that's how he survived, was by drawing the comics, and he might have ended up killing himself if he didn't have an outlet to just completely draw whatever he wanted to draw. So yeah, that was funny how he confessed at the end of it, and why'd you draw in the first place? Are there any others we want to pick out specifically? Because we can kind of go through them.
Wow. What have we not talked about yet?
There's so many. Yeah, I'm just going. You just never know what you're going to get when you're flipping through it.
Well, we didn't say enough about Footsie.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of, that one too.
It's interesting how he draws this in a different style with so much black in it.
Definitely, yeah. He chose a completely different style for it.
Maybe it's supposed to look like comics of a certain time.
Maybe it's supposed to look like how he used to draw comics when he was that age or something. I don't know.
But yeah, he's talking about when he was, this is junior high or high school, when he's in class and the girl behind him always puts her legs on either side of him, and then she lets him touch her feet with his feet, and
well, he sort of risks it one day. He's like, let's see what if I just put my foot up here, what's she gonna do? And she doesn't do anything.
And then she comes onto him, and he's kicking himself because he didn't follow through. Like, he
didn't understand.
He didn't get it. It's like,
because it starts going further and further. First it starts with touching, and then he puts his feet right on top of hers. And then she sits next to him, and she lets him put his hand on her foot.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought this was like, I don't know if you remember what it was like if you brushed up against a girl when you were like 14.
Had any kind of physical contact with a female.
But it was like insanely like sweaty and like holy. You're thinking about it for days afterward. And this story just drove me nuts because I just kind of I felt it. Yeah, but she's like, she says, "Oh, Robert, I have something of yours." What is it? I'm not going to tell you. Is it my missing notebook? That's it, huh? I'm not telling. It's at my house. If you want it, you have to come over and get it. And he doesn't figure out what she actually means. Like,
yeah, can you believe how out of it I was? It never dawned on me till years later that she was actually trying to put some kind of make on me, and she kept it up for weeks. Oh, what a dope I was.
Yeah.
Yeah, the next panel, she's still at it. Robert, I still have something of yours at my house.
Really? I can't think what it could possibly be. Yeah, that was great. And then it follows up with like other girls at the school with big legs who he likes. And oh my God, there's this crazy story about this girl who, like, she stands in the hallway. She's like really tall with, the R. Crumb type, super tall, thick legs. And for some reason she's an A student. She's a brown noser. She just stands in the middle of the hallway. Oh, they made her hall monitor. Okay. So he kind of pretends to hide from the crowds behind her, but he actually does it so he can stand up behind her, between her legs. And she doesn't seem to care that he's doing it.
Did you notice in that story on page 209, the first panel, the guy who looks like Alfred E. Newman?
I noticed that guy. Yeah, Alfred E. Newman. It's a brief appearance.
He went to school with Alfred E. Newman. What a coincidence.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting... Why did he... Maybe... But it might have... I mean, its choice of style might have just been because I'm going to try to draw in this style today and see if I can do it or what it looks like, I feel like a lot of the stuff's really kind of experimental. Like he was just trying stuff out to see how it would turn out. Yeah, Footsie, I love this story.
I kept noticing in a lot of these stories how often his dialogue felt really real, and he'd even put in change spellings of words to suggest a certain pronunciation to them. Which you could really hear someone saying that, and I haven't seen many or any other comics creators do quite the same thing.
No, it's amazing. Yeah, definitely. He has a real ear for the dialogue, and like lots of different types. It's like not one type as well. It's like different the way you speak.
Right. Yeah, it's not just one way of speaking that he suggests. So I mean, maybe that was part of what I liked about the Moto Day stuff, because even if the story wasn't going anywhere, the dialogue just kept me in it.
Well, even though I said that, I mean, even I understand that there's something lacking in my own criticism of those stories not going anywhere, because there's something very Crumb about those people trying to make sense of things and being desperate, like the desperation of them. Was very Crumb. Like they're always trying to get something or get someone to do something, or
get back at someone.
Yeah, there's constant kind of conflict, even though there's not is something as pedestrian as a narrative through line. It's very much, I guess it's kind of a character study.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I appreciated that the last panel of the last story on 248, the two women get in a fight, and it's the classic sort of spinning wheel of two people fighting with body parts sticking out of it.
Yeah, I think there was a panel like that in the very first, that TV one, at the very first, when he gets chucked out of the TV.
Yeah, that wasn't fighting, but it was
no,
same
that's
type.
right.
It was just the two of them were actually spinning. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a kind of I don't know where. Well, I wonder where that came from. It's like a Tom and Jerry thing or something.
Yeah, I don't know. That must go way back in comics history, along with the with our favorite. What did you call it? When the flip take. Yeah, flip take with the 2 feet sticking off the side of the panel.
Yeah, that was funny. Well, Crumb also, when he hit in the 60s, the thing was everybody was shocked because he had a style that was reminiscent of this art style from the 30s that people had kind of forgotten about. It's kind of almost an advertising style or something like that, and people had kind of forgotten that. And that's kind of what hit people between the eyes initially. So he just kind of he's able to draw on art styles from like lots of different time periods, and there's definitely kind of like some of them definitely have that kind of Mad Magazine format to them as well. Oh, another story I wanted to briefly touch on was George Murky Mercoid, The Adventures of George Murky Mercoid on page 90. Because this is basically, I don't know, he's got this character called George Murky Mercoid, who, like many Crumb characters, can't stop watching TV. Speaks to God when he's desperate, and he, as Crumb does in other stories, like he calls this girl over, hoping that maybe he can have sex, he can trick her into having sex or whatever, and finally he does. Like he gets her a bit drunk, and then he has sex with her, and then he remembers how they met at this party, and she was downstairs, and he was about to have sex with her or make out with her, and got her to kick up her leg, and she kicked the painting that was on the wall behind her head. This is the longest run-on sentence I've ever done. So, then he's like, whoa, I better get out of here. And he goes down to the basement, and he sees this woman watching TV. And he says, oh, hello. And there's no reaction. She seems almost catatonic. And he says, guess I won't stay down here. And he says, Irene, who's that strange Latin-looking woman watching TV by herself down in the romper room? She's a very lovely person. Oh, that's Maria. She's been living down there for a while. She's one of those aliens from Guatemala. She does a little housework and gets her room and board. We pay her a little something. It's a terrific arrangement. George, did you get enough stuff to eat? Yeah, okay, just wondered. And he seems really freaked out by it. And then we flash back to the present, and he's like lost his erection, and finally he's like, God help me. I was like, whoa, what was the thing about that woman in the basement that totally freaked him out, past and present?
Yeah, and then like, that's the end of the story.
In the past, it freaked him out, and in the present, remembering it freaks him out, and he's like, God help me. Like, somehow he's lost. He's had this existential experience seeing this woman in the basement. And this is a story that was like, yeah, the first time I read it, I was like, this is so random. Like, what happened? It just ends. Like, he just sees this woman in the basement, it's like, guess I won't stay down here. Then he hears about her, and he's like, what the hell? And then in the present, he's freaking out. But then the more I read it, was like, he had some kind of experience. Like, I don't know what it was exactly. I'm still trying to figure it out, but
I wonder how autobiographical this story is.
Well, it's very similar to the Memories Are Made of This story later on, where he goes over to that girl's house and gets her drunk to try to have sex. But I don't know. It didn't seem... I think when Crumb wants to do autobiographical stuff, he just does it. It was kind of funny. The story is strange to me. It was like... I thought, yeah, it seemed like he might have experienced something like it, but then why would he fictionalize it, you know? But I think the thing where she kicks her foot through the painting over her head, like backwards over her head, she puts a hole in this painting. Was like, could that have happened? I don't know.
Yeah, it'd be tough to do.
But also, I kind of like, if I saw Marie in the basement myself, I kind of understand his reaction. Like, you know what I mean? God, that was so weird.
I'm just noticing too that basement. I can really feel like I've been in a basement like that with that paneling and
yeah.
It's really well rendered here. Well,
that's kind of that goes back to one of the things you said at the very start, which is, especially in the later stuff, he draws backgrounds in every panel. Like, they're all really fully realized worlds. And he never skimps, and you're completely in there. Yeah, even in the Omaha the cat cancer parody, like, he doesn't skimp.
Yeah.
And of course, the one people you gotta love them. There are no backgrounds because it's just people.
Did you have a particular favorite out of all this?
I like Goldilocks and the one with the aliens and the very, very first one. I like the really straight up nonsense funny ones. But I don't know if there are any I dislike. Maybe the Omaha one I thought was pretty kind of pointless now.
Well, and I'm not sure how different it is from actual Omaha.
Yeah, that's true too. It might be too accurate. Yeah, I'm trying to think of. I love the covers because they're all reprinted in color in here. Footsie was gigantic. Mother Hulda oddly was one that I thought had like maybe the best art in the whole thing. Because I love the girls' faces. And if you've ever seen, like, go on R. Crumb's website and look at some of his, like, landscapes and stuff, and he does super, like, almost photorealistic stuff. Philip K. Dick one I super loved, again, because I love Philip K. Dick.
We should explain what that is. We just referred to it being Philip K. Dick. It's called The Religious Experience of Philip K. Dick. Right.
Well, Philip K. Dick, probably, I guess about 6 or 7 years before he died, had this woman came over to his house. He was delivering medication, and he had been kind of paranoid his whole life. It's hard to paraphrase, because especially if you know the works of Philip K. Dick, you know how paranoid he was, and this experience he had kind of played into that or grew out of it or something. But this woman was wearing a fish on a necklace, and she said it was like an early symbol of Christians. And then he kind of realized or remembered, I don't know what the exact word is, he remembered that he once had in a previous life, had lived in like Roman apostolic Christian times in ancient Rome. And he had lived this previous life, and he kept traveling back or he was actually living the past life in the present, and he says, I was able to function perfectly. I wasn't psychotic. I was able to handle all my business. So he's kind of living in both times at the present, and he like believed all this stuff. And in fact, he started getting signals like his son had a birth defect. There's this amazing story where his baby son, which was not detected, but he got a message from the Beatles, Strawberry Fields Forever, or from some alien entity or from the past or something, saying that your son has this genetic defect and you need to take him to the doctor right away. And they took him to the doctor, and sure enough, the baby had that defect. And if they hadn't taken him there, he would have died at any time. And then he continues to have these visions.
Well, and didn't he say also that, on the next page, that he was picking up thoughts from someone in the past that he was like, right. Let's see, that personality gradually took me over for a month, and then for about a year I was that other personality. It was so funny. I used to be able to pick up his thoughts while I was falling asleep. And I picked up his thoughts one night, and he was thinking, there's somebody else inside my head, and he's living in another century, meaning me.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
Yeah. Dick actually started writing all this stuff down, and he wrote apparently hundreds and hundreds of pages of stuff, which I don't know if it's been published or has never been published. And finally, it says in the last few months of his life, Dick finally located what he considered the likeliest candidate for the return to Christ, the so-called Maitreya. In the midst of this last feverish enthusiasm, however, he suffered a stroke and died 16 days later on March 2nd, 1982. I believe just before the Blade Runner movie came out, he passed away.
And then down at the bottom it says, most dialogue taken from Philip K. Dick, The Last Testament, copyright 1985 by Greg Rickman. What was that? Was that like an interview with him?
Yes, it must have been. Yeah, I don't know what that. is.
Well, yeah, and on page 184, the page where the panel where he's seeing like the imaginary flames shooting up from the floor. It says in 1981 interview with Greg Rickman. So
right.
So that wasn't Dick's own writings, but
it might have been a biography or something. I haven't read it. I don't know. But that was another one of my. So I'm having trouble choosing a favorite here. Because there are a lot of. I love Midlife Crisis, especially this time.
Mm-hmm.
I love the end of the Murky Mercoid one. Goldilocks. Did I say that one already?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned the Moto Day and the 60s story, I think, were my favorites. I certainly get where you're coming from on Footsie, though.
Yeah. It's intense, and he's chosen a really intense art style with the really Charles Burns-like.
Yeah, you're right. It is like Charles Burns, and it does help the story become more intense. He does kind of the same, not exactly, kind of the same style on the Philip K. Dick. With a lot of black.
It's a little bit darker one too. That's right. Yeah, thicker brush maybe he's using or something. I don't know, but definitely, yeah.
But Footsie is a bit more kind of stylized.
Right. That's true. Yeah. It's not even in his usual kind of style. Like all the lines are thicker. And
yeah, I'm not even sure I would pick it out as Crumb.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, it's almost like that. But he does have a lot of styles. Like even the Omaha one is done in that Omaha style.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Anything else we should say here? It's been about an hour already.
I just think it's amazing that this book has finally come out 20 years later, after the last issue of Weirdo. I'm grateful for it, but definitely, probably not to be consumed all at once. Not necessarily because of the neuroses and paranoia and stuff that will kind of weigh on you, but just to savor it in a way. Because even the very first story about the guy watching TV kind of encapsulates all of the themes that are there later, throughout the book. But yeah, it's intense and full on, and I loved it.
Yeah, like I said, it took me a little while to get into it, but I did find a lot of things that I liked in here. But yeah, again, the variety takes a little getting used to, because you
might be it. Yeah,
really have to. You can't have kind of limited expectations of it because it's all over the map.
Yeah.
R. Crumb, The Weirdo Years was published in 2013 by Last Gasp. It's currently out of print. Last Gasp is currently publishing a book called The Book of Weirdo, a retrospective of R. Crumb's legendary humor comics anthology. I haven't seen the book, but judging from the Amazon reviews, it's more of a history of the years the magazine was in publication rather than a collection of the work. Looking around the web, unfortunately there doesn't seem to be a collection of his weirdo work that's currently in print. The used book market might be your best bet, although if you find stuff online, you'll probably pay multiples of the cover price. Follow us on Blue Sky at Decon Comics. Join our Facebook page or the more active group. Listen to our audio-only videos on YouTube. All of those are linked from deconstructingcomics.com, as is our voicemail. You can communicate with us via social media or drop us a line at mail@deconstructingcomics.com. And of course, we'd love it if you shared episodes with your friends and left us a review in Apple Podcasts or other podcast outlets. Are you making a comic? Send it to us and we'll do a Critiquing Comics episode about it. In place of a theme this week, we have R. Crumb and his Keep On Truckin' Orchestra with Wisconsin Wiggles. In 2014, Crumb released, of all things, an adaptation of the biblical book of Genesis. If the choice of material is a bit puzzling, the execution didn't clear up any of the confusion. So it's not a parody, but it's also not appropriate for kids? That year, John and I reviewed the book in episode 415, and we'll be flashing back to that episode next week. Till then, this is Tim, and thanks for listening to Deconstructing Comics.